Join me today as I share some stories about my favorite celebrities and a couple of my not so favorites that I've met over the years. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here at Traces of Hollywood. And as I said, today I'll be telling some stories about some of my favorite celebrities that I've met and a couple of brief stories about the ones who maybe didn't impress me quite as much. And for those that are new here, I used to work in Hollywood and I still work in the business a little bit here and there. But I also lived in Hancock Park, which was a part of Hollywood where lots of celebrities lived, and it's near Paramount Pictures. And there's also some cafes there, so I had plenty of opportunities to bump into celebrities, even just out in the neighborhood. And I'll start with probably my favorite, Cameron Diaz. She was a neighbor of mine. She lived right down the street. And I would see her out shopping at American Rag. There was one store I know she liked. It was a clothing store on La Brea. But most of the time, I would see her at the grocery store, the Pavilions, right at Melrose and Vine. And you get to recognize your neighbor, so we knew each other in that acquaintance sense. But every time she saw me, she was always very talkative, always had a big smile, and was just a friendly, normal neighbor. So I really can't say enough good things about Cameron. She is truly one of the sweetest celebrities in Hollywood, and if you ever meet her, I'm sure you'll agree. She's the best. The next celebrity is Lynn Redgrave, just an icon in Hollywood. And sadly, Lynn died in 2010 after battling breast cancer. Of course, part of the famous Redgrave family, her sister Vanessa here. But I met Lynn a few years before she passed. It was after a red carpet premiere for one of her films, and we had a mutual friend. So I was invited to sit at her table for dinner at the Four Seasons restaurant in Beverly Hills. And it was really special to me, just four of us at the table. So I was really able to just have very normal person-to-person conversations with her. And it's something I'll really cherish. She's a true one of a kind, and she is missed. The next celebrity is Andy Serkis, who many of you know as doing motion capture work for his role as Gollum in Lord of the Rings, King Kong, Planet of the Apes, but also he's gone on to star in lots of other films, and he's also a phenomenal and talented and successful director. But I had, again, a mutual friend, and I spent a lot of time with Andy, just out doing regular things that we would do in Hollywood, going out to parties, going to clubs, hanging out at people's houses. So I have had some genuine experiences with Andy, and you'll notice a theme here. I like the celebrities who seem like normal people, who aren't caught up in ego, and Andy is absolutely one of those folks. The next is a group of three gentlemen that you probably all know as Run DMC, and I actually got to hang out with these guys a few times. After different performances in New York City, when I lived there, I would hang out in the green room, and I will say that Rev Run often didn't hang out too much afterwards. He would go back home to his family. He wasn't much of a partier. DMC, Daryl McDaniels, he would hang out and usually would have some beers with the rest of us. And my favorite of the three was Jason Mizell, Jam Master Jay. He, to me, just was the person I connected most with and who I felt was, again, the least caught up in being a celebrity, the most down to earth. But they are all very, very cool guys. And again, I feel very fortunate to have met them. And unfortunately, Jason Mizell was murdered in his studio in 2002. But in 2023, the perpetrators were actually sentenced for that. So up next is someone else who's a fan favorite and somebody I also met in my neighborhood. It's Brad Pitt, and he used to park right outside of my building down in Hancock Park. He had a friend who lived in the building next door, as I understand it. And at the time, he was driving a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. That's the big SUV. And I like cars, so we would just talk about vehicles. So again, another very normal human being to chat with. And this is something I say all the time, that most celebrities just want to be treated like regular people and have regular conversations. Up next is Colin Farrell, and I met him fairly early on into his arrival to Hollywood. He was making Minority Report when I met him, and I was walking my dog, and we stopped into a CVS pharmacy in Larchmont Village, which is near Paramount. And Colin was in there, and he just started chatting me up about my dog. So we spent about 10 minutes just having a little discussion about the dog I had just adopted. And again, a very cool guy. And if you haven't seen it, I would say look for the video where he discusses his son. It's one of the sweetest things I've seen in a long time. So I'll put a link to that in the description for you all. So I'm not one to gossip or really go negative at all, so I'm not going to get into any details, but just for balance, I'll mention a couple of folks who didn't impress me as much, and the first of those would be Jimmy Kimmel. I've been backstage at Jimmy Kimmel Live a couple of times with people who were guests on his show, so I've been in the green room, and I'll just say that I didn't find him to be the friendliest person. And apparently there are some interviews out there with other celebrities where they say essentially the same things, so I'll just leave it at that. The last celebrity is Jane Seymour, and I met her at a red carpet premiere for a project that her husband at the time was directing. Her husband was James Keach, the son of the actor Stacy Keach. They were married until 2015. And I had the occasion to speak with her a couple of times that night. And both times she just really, there were no smiles. She really just gave the impression that she could care less. And you know what? Unlike the other celebrities who I met on multiple occasions for the most part, I can't really judge her. You know, maybe she didn't want to be there. Maybe it was an off night. Whatever the case, you know, she doesn't owe me anything. So it is what it is, but there you have it. Now, these are just my personal experiences and my opinions. Lots of people have different experiences with every one of these celebrities, but I hope you enjoyed the stories nonetheless. Thanks always for joining me. I love sharing the celebrity homes and graves and stories with you. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that little circle on the right. You guys are helping the channel grow tremendously, and I appreciate it. See you on the next one.